welcome back. In this video, I'm going to talk about the 3 things that have me most excited about Starfield. But real quick, a week and a half ago, I put up a poll to gauge just how much the community was feeling about single player all the way to hardcore like open world PvP. And let's take a look at those poll results. So really, it wasn't even close. A good majority of you, I'd say nearly all of you, say that Bethesda got it right with doing single player only, as that came in with 83% of the community vote. And co-op also came in with 11%, and then a separate sandbox PvP, kind of like a Destiny 2 style, coming in at 3%. Open world PvP, kind of like Fallout 76, coming in at 3% as well. So there you go. A lot of people seem to be very happy that Bethesda has gone with single player only. So I will have another poll at the end of this video, and I think I'm going to get into a little bit of a routine about doing polls every Saturday up until we get to the Starfield launch. Just something kind of do as we wait for new information and the release date. Now, as far as those 3 things that I'm most excited about Starfield, the first one is the vast and beautiful, diverse open worlds. Now, I'll be honest with you, when they first showed off their world, how they looked at the Starfield gameplay reveal, I was immediately hooked. I was into it. I liked it. I liked the diversity. I liked the way they looked. And that's what really got me into Starfield. And there's been other games that have been wonderful in other areas, but they kind of failed, in my opinion, to kind of deliver on just how great of a world and environmental spaces kind of look. And one of the recent really popular games that I would say had a lot of success, but to me just failed to really kind of keep me engaged, is Diablo 4. Diablo 4 is great for many things, but in my perspective, looking at the ground constantly with that top-down view is just not appealing. There's like, I don't know, 5 or 6 spots throughout the whole game where you can go to an overlook and look at like some dungeon entrance or something like that. And those scenes look fantastic, but those are one-offs. They don't even make up 1% of the time in the game because they are that minimal. And Diablo 4 has a lot going for it. It has great build crafting and different diversities of how do you want to play the game. But the constant looking at the ground, there's just not a great appeal to just constantly looking at the ground all the time. Well, what about space games? Other space games have a lot of great worlds and diverse worlds. Yeah, No Man's Sky is one of those. You know, we can talk about No Man's Sky. But even No Man's Sky just doesn't do it for me. I don't know what it is about looking at No Man's Sky and its world. And it's got a lot of diverse worlds. I've seen many different worlds in No Man's Sky. I've never played it. But from what I've seen of it, just something about it just has not ever really appealed to me. And I don't know if it's just like the way it looks cartoony. I don't know what it is. But the worlds just don't look that fantastic to me. They look very much like I would go planet hop, one after another, after another, after another. But that goes back to some of the issues I have actually with space games, is they make it too much about space. There's nothing sexy about space. Space is just black and nothing. There's nothing out there, really. It's about going exploring the other things that are out in space, like the different planets and the different moons, and finding out what is outside of Earth, right? That's what appeals to me. You know, is going exploring and finding out and seeing what is out there. And in Starfield's planets and worlds, they look just so much immersive to go explore and be on those different worlds. Now, the second thing that has me most excited about Starfield is actually the engaging story that we are expected or led to believe that is coming from Starfield. There's a lot of different space games actually that you can go play. And there's a lot of really good ones. They all have kind of their different pros and cons. But where just about all of them lack is they don't have good stories. They don't have good storytelling. And it's like everybody that you come across, all the NPCs, they're just like blank slates, right? They're just there to give you a mission or something like that. And really that's kind of the experience in Elite Dangerous, as every character or NPC in the game just has some preset dialogue. Hey, go do this mission, or you know, you want to buy something, you want to sell something, you know, whatever it is. And that's where Elite Dangerous to me just has like no story at all. Now, No Man's Sky, on the other hand, for how much it's been updated since its release, and it's a fantastic game right now, it too also has a story that's very lacking. And it's really more of a quest rather than a story. What about Star Citizens? Well, I haven't heard anything great about a Star Citizen story, and that's not even to say that they have one or don't have one. I just haven't heard anything great about it. So I don't even know if they do have one. Now, one exception, I'm going to say, Star Wars Outlaws isn't out yet, but from what they've shown off, it seems to be a pretty good story as well in a space-type universe. Don't know everything about that game. All I've really seen is the gameplay reveal that they've kind of shown off from about a month ago. So definitely look forward to learning more about that game, but that game looks somewhat promising, but a little bit different from what Starfield's kind of going for, but still looks to be like a lot of fun with its own unique kind of story. And this is where I'm going to bring it back to Starfield. As we know, we're going to get a main quest story revolving around Constellation and trying to figure out what the artifacts are building and what they're kind of leading us to. Is there something else out there answering those type of questions? And then even the recent dev insight with Jamie Mallory talking about how in depth the faction quest system is going to be and the various amount of opportunities to have a really great gaming experience and story with just the faction quest system. But one of the big tells that you're going to get a great story in any game is the stories that they have for the NPCs in the game. And that was made very evident last week when we got the 3 videos about the settled systems, the Super Ed Ultra, Where Hope is Built, The Hand That Feeds. These were stories that were telling you about the different NPCs or different stories in the game that you are going to be able to experience. It's not just about gameplay features. It's about when you go interact with another NPC character, do they have certain kind of characteristics, a background, tendencies, things that make them a little bit more personable. That's what a story is. All those story elements are different than the ones that we're going to be able to pick, like our background and traits and how those change our story in the Starfield universe. So in Starfield, when you combine all of these different type of quests or stories that you can kind of go down, you have a truly unique storytelling experience from game session to game session. And it's not just what a bunch of other space games try to get you to do, which is non-stop combat by offering you bounty missions or rewards or even doing cargo missions. It's good to have things to do in games, but if all you're doing it for is just to get your credits up, it gets rather boring rather quickly. And if there's a little bit more to the story, that kind of helps you be engaged in the game. Now, the third and final thing that I am most excited about Starfield is the game developers' long-term thoughts for Starfield. When Todd Howard was talking on the Kind of Funny podcast about kind of the long-term experience, he mentioned about how much they learned from Skyrim and how long people have been playing Skyrim and thinking about, hey, you know what? Let's have a little bit more of a longer term approach because we could see people playing this a lot longer. So in knowing that people play your game for a long period of time, that then allows you to develop your game for that long period of time. He was mentioning how Skyrim was going on 10 years plus, and it was kind of even blowing their expectations away of why and how like Skyrim keeps going and going and going. So just hearing that they acknowledge that people look forward to playing their games and getting immersed, allowing them to really design out some things for the long term. And I'm not even talking about expansions and future content that they're going to release. And Todd Howard even said on the podcast that they have different features and different storytelling experiences that they want to bring over the next several years. So just hearing their philosophy and their methodology about how they went about designing the game gives me a lot of hope and a lot of expectations and a lot of excitement for Starfield, because we've seen other games not have that long-term approach to it and they die off very quickly. One game I'm really thinking of was Outriders. Outriders was a super fun game. It had a great story, but they had no long-term vision. It had excellent build crafting, gunplay, the story was good, the enemy difficulty was also really good and diverse. But Outriders had all the makings to be like a live service game, but they didn't want to do that. They also didn't even have any expansion plans, but after the community asked for it so much, they actually did put out one expansion. And when I look at Outriders, I just think about the missed opportunity that they could have had with that game, but they didn't have any long-term thoughts for that game. So those are the 3 things that have me most excited about Starfield. Is all the world and how great they look, the engaging story that's going to be in a space game, and the long-term thought and development that went into Starfield. Now, I could have just been picking the 3 things I'm most excited for and just picked all the different gameplay features like shipbuilding and all that kind of stuff. And yes, I'm super excited about all that stuff. But I was hooked on this game when they showed off the world, and I was even more excited to hear about their methodology for what they have for the long term and what they've shown off as far as the story parts of the game. So let me know what is getting you most excited about Starfield. And there's no problem with hype. There's no problem with it. It's fine. Everybody's like, oh man, is it getting too hyped? Don't worry about that. Look forward to having a great time. Get hyped about whatever game you want to get hyped for, okay? It's not a big deal. These games come along every so often. Enjoy it. Now, speaking of that main quest or story, down in that pinned comment, there will be a link to take you to the community page for the channel. If you scroll down just a little bit, you will come across this poll question. Will you play the main quest or story? Are you in the camp thinking you will never complete it? Or are you thinking you're not really interested in the story and will do it if things maybe get a little bit stale? Or are you in the camp that, you know what, I'm going to get it done, but I'm not going to rush and get it done right away? Or what if you are in the camp to finish the story ASAP because you want to know what the deal is with the artifacts? Because I'll be pretty honest, they have done a very good job talking up the story and their idea of what's out there and what the different artifacts are building. I find myself somewhere between 3 and 4. Like, I want to get the story done, but if I find something that kind of intrigues me, I'm going to mess around with that for a bit, and then I'll probably go back to the story, and I'll probably just kind of go through the story that way. But I do want to try to have the story done within the first week. So let me know what you are most excited about for Starfield and how you are feeling about that main quest. Alrighty, take care.